Hello and welcome to the Metabolic Balance Stories podcast. This is where we share real stories and insights from people across the globe who have experienced metabolic balance and their journey in optimal health and personalized nutrition. I'm Cherry Wills, I'm your host, and today I'm delighted to say I am joined by the wonderful Chiza Westcarr. Chiza is a nutritionist, a dermal clinician, a menopause expert, and she is also a metabolic balance practitioner based in Sydney. Chiza trained with me in 2018. Can you believe that, Chiza? Sorry, I should just say hello, Chiza.
Hi, Cherry. I'm thrilled to be here. But no, I can't believe it's been that long.
I know. So you were one of my first practitioners who I actually trained up because I started doing the training here in Australia and New Zealand in 2017. So you were one of the earlier ones.
I wouldn't have known, though. I wouldn't have known.
No. So should we start by just saying what led you to being interested in metabolic balance in the first place?
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm a nutritionist with a personal interest in health. And I happened to be in Barbados on holidays. A girlfriend of mine had just recently gotten engaged. So I flew across for the engagement. And we hadn't seen each other for a few years. And the first thing she said to me was, "You've lost so much weight, Chiza. Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I've been doing intermittent fasting." And she said, "No, no, your eyes are bulging." And I'm thinking, "Oh, it's a strange thing to say. Okay." So I took it on board. My sister who's a doctor based in the UK, was arriving in Barbados the next day for the same celebration. And I told her what my friend Jackie had said. And she got me to stretch out my hands, and my hands were shaking. She took my pulse and it was racing. And she said, "When you get home, you need to go and get your bloods done because you may have hyperthyroidism." And when I got home, I did that, and I was in the severe sort of what I was severely hyperthyroid, and it was actually hyperthyroid. So I was diagnosed as having Graves' disease, but I was severely Graves, and they said I was very close to a thyroid storm. And I had no inkling because at the time I was studying a master's degree in human nutrition, and I was a global trainer. So I was not sleeping very much. I was highly stressed. I remember going to hotel rooms, getting ready to present. So flying into the country, getting ready to present. And I knew that I had a uni assignment and I had to prepare for the talk. And sometimes I didn't sleep. I'd look at the hotel bed and I'd say, "I won't be sleeping tonight." So I was running on empty. And this was constant. And so I remember contacting Jeanette actually.
Yeah. Jeanette is a fellow MB practitioner here in Adelaide, yes.
Yes, and she had done her naturopathy and I'd done my nutritional medicine practitioner qualification, the same institution, and she told me about metabolic balance. So she said, "You can join as a practitioner." So I thought, okay, let's see whether it'll get my health back, because I was told that my options were to either have my thyroid completely desiccated or removed. And my thought was, if this is Graves' disease, Graves is an autoimmune condition. If they take out my thyroid, surely the antibodies will attack somewhere else because 70% of our immune system is located in the gut. And so, wouldn't that be the first place to focus on gut health? So, it didn't make sense to me. And I remember my sister, who's a medical practitioner, saying to me at the time, I mean, she knows more, she has a greater awareness now, but at the time, she thought that I was being highly irresponsible for wanting to go down the more natural route of dealing with gut health first. Right. My mother had thyroid disease and had her thyroid taken out. My sister-in-law had hers taken out, and I point blank refused to. So I then found you, Cherry, and we did a plan, and it showed absolutely that I was severely Graves. And what came back was quite a restricted plan that I followed. I followed to the letter, and after I think it might have been about maybe 3 to 4 months later, I had my bloods done again, and I was now euthyroid.
Which is normal thyroid function.
But I had made some changes. When I it scared me. The whole idea of having this condition, which could then lead to other things, really frightened me. I was never a big drinker, but I drank. I drank socially, and it might be that I drank once or twice. I'd only ever have 2 drinks because yeah, very cheap drunk I was. 2 drinks
I am also, I'm a very cheap date. Yeah.
doesn't cost you much.
But I enjoy it. It's nice to have a glass of wine and a glass of champagne or something. Yeah.
A Key Royale. Have you had a Key Royale? Have you tried Key Royale?
No, I don't think I have.
Which is champagne with cassis or macerated. Beautiful, beautiful. That was my drink of choice. A very elegant drink. You need to try that. Beautiful, beautiful. And that's what I'd have. Beautiful champagne with some cassis. Just lovely, right? And but I gave up all alcohol and I haven't drunken since, funnily enough. Gave up alcohol. And what was fantastic about metabolic balance was that you were given clear guidelines, clear instructions on what you needed to do. And the beautiful thing about it is that it was tailored specifically for me. And I recall years down the track with me still sticking to it. I mean, after I had done my first plan and I was euthyroid, I went back and retested. And my plan was very different because my metabolic function was different. My blood values were different. So my plan was different. And it was
Absolutely. Yeah,
a lot more expansive, a lot more expansive.
exactly. You're in a safer place and you can now broaden your food choices. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've stuck to my plan. Of course, I vary it, bringing in things, but because that's what the plan is about. When you get to the maintenance, you bring in things, but I've never ever gone back to grain. I don't do grain. So there are some inflammatory things that I just don't include. And I have never felt better. I am truly thriving, and about maybe 4 years ago, I decided to change my life insurance policy. And um, on my the life insurance company wanted my medical history. And in my file was a note that showed that I had a history of Graves. So they sent a nurse to my place of work to take a blood test. They then sent me to their endocrinologist to be assessed before they accepted my policy or rejected it. The nurse took my bloods at work. I then went in to see the endocrinologist, and the first thing she said to me was, "You don't have Graves." And I said, "No, I know that I don't." And she said, "Well, what medication are you on?" And I said, "I'm on no medication." And she said, "Well, how did you get on top of your Graves?" And said, "I completely overhauled my lifestyle. I completely changed what I eat. And I gave up alcohol, but it was purely from just modifying my diet." And she just looked at me almost in shock. And then I asked her the question. I said, "Do you focus on gut health at all?" To which she replied, "No, we don't."
So, yeah. But, it's so wonderful because you are an incredibly busy lady as well. I mean, like, you would not have time to have Graves' disease or be ill. You have too much to do and too much of a vision of what you are doing in now as well. So you are a practitioner and you have used metabolic balance over the last, 7 years now, nearly. And is, do you, yeah, and you clearly love it because you're here talking to me. But what would you say about it, just in general, for your practice?
You mentioned that I have a special interest in menopause, and that tends to be who my clients are. I see, I'll get the odd man who will find me and, younger person, but my passion is helping menopausal women. And that is because of what happens with the hormonal changes. And as we know, Cherry, it becomes harder and harder to lose weight as our muscle mass declines and insulin resistance starts to be a concern. And what I find is that we are creatures of habit. Everyone likes their lifestyle. They eat the way they always have, right? I always say to my clients, if I ask you for your shopping bill from yesterday to 2 months ago to 6 months ago, it'll be the same. And they all agree with that, always. And what I know to be true is that in menopause, we cannot afford to eat the same way because there are so many shifts that happen, including the shift of the microbiome. So what they notice, what my clients notice when they come to book an appointment with me is that digestive health has changed, constantly bloated, bowel function has changed. And then, of course, there's the weight, especially that weight around the middle. So that central adiposity. And they're not always overweight, Cherry. They can be slim, but they all notice that belly fat.
It's that thickening of the girth kind of thing, isn't it?
Exactly right. That's yes. No one escapes that. And so they come to see me because, and there's a whole, it seems to be, if I had a checklist, you've got the same recurring concerns: lack of energy. You've, of course, got the brain fog. You've got the, poor concentration. You've got the high anxiety. And what I love about metabolic balance is that when you get the diet right, everything seems to fall into place. The energy returns. And what I love is them trusting me to take them on the journey because they always say the same thing. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I found you. My one dream was to be able to tie my shoelaces or play with my grandson or just be able to feel better. And these are, when you think of the fact that we're living longer, I think that it's criminal to allow someone to hobble along through life feeling crap, not not enjoying their life, being in pain, the joint pain. I mean, Cherry, because you're the pioneer of this here in Australia, but it is so empowering knowing that you can make a difference in someone's life. And all it takes is just changing food. I remember a client saying to me when she first started, "My fear, Chiza, is I'm going to be hungry." And I said, "You won't be, though. You won't be, because you're eating whole foods that have all the nutrition that you need, including fiber that will satiate you. You will not be hungry."
Mm. So often people actually eat more than they are currently eating because that is such a common scenario that I hear is women saying, I am hardly eating anything. In fact, there's a beautiful client I had. Gosh, she's probably 10 years ago now, but I remember her so clearly. She was sat in my consulting room and she just said to me, I am scared to go to sleep at night because I just know I will be heavier in the morning. And she was hardly eating a thing. She was starving herself. She was in a state of almost like this helplessness that her body was changing and she couldn't do anything about it. And nobody was giving her a solution to it. And I just remember she was such a beautiful client to support. She followed it and I remember it was only 2 weeks later she comes in and she said to me, I haven't had a headache in the last week. It's so weird. I don't, it's just weird not to have a headache. And is that not tragic though, that we have this idea that that's just normal for 50% of the population have this higher risk when they hit 50, 55, 60, that suddenly their health changes and they now have to suffer. And what is the future for them?
But also the reliance on medication. I can't remember what the statistic is, but high blood pressure, cholesterolemia, so high cholesterol levels. Yeah, then the risk of metabolic syndrome, the cluster of conditions that will lead to increased heart disease. You know, I it shouldn't be that way. And I think what upsets me the most is when you look at Western countries, we are getting heavier and heavier. And there doesn't seem to be any approach to start the education early. You know, processed food is a way of life. We all are convenience focused. It's all about convenience, and that includes our diet, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think because you ran an amazing event, I'm just going to mention that you organized this amazing event, a menopause symposium, thriving through menopause, which was only just earlier this week. And I was lucky enough to be able to speak at your event as well.
And did it brilliantly. Did it brilliantly. Your talk was one of the highlights, and they want more of that. So it was I was so proud of you. I was just cheering you on because you delivered it so brilliantly, Cherry. And it was such relevant and important information, especially in menopause.
Yeah, and one of the things I was really, really focused, because this is one of, you know, menopause is a completely natural time of life. And actually, the female body should and can transition this in a just a normal flow. It's a normal process. Um, my approach is very much we have got a metabolic health crisis. We see this around society, you know, increased cardiovascular disease, increased risk of certain metabolic cancers, increased risk of cognitive decline like Alzheimer's disease. We have metabolic health crises, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, all these kind of things. Is the fact that we have this metabolic health crisis exacerbating the problems in menopause? It is not that menopause has problems. It's that when a woman who has metabolic health problems, they now move into this period where the estrogen drops and it's no longer this protective anti-inflammatory hormone in place. And suddenly we actually see this increased storm is another, you know, to use your term from earlier, of menopausal symptoms.
When you look at the way women collectively navigate menopause, it's very different from one person to the next. You can have someone who's almost suicidal, beside herself. Her health, like you said, just continues to balloon and balloon. And then you have others for whom it's a smooth journey. They're out hiking, they're playing golf, they sleep like babies. These are the same women who are navigating this phase. What I know is that, like you just said, estrogen is an anti-inflammatory hormone. As it completely declines, unfortunately, oxidative stress increases, right? Inflammation increases. Our lifestyle, our diet will fuel that as well. The fact that a lot of women drink alcohol regularly, and as a nutritionist, I see these women. I'm also a skin expert. So we know that in the first 5 years of menopause, we lose 30% of collagen, but we also have 10% of bone mass resorption. And so in the face dramatically changes. Women see this is what they present to the world. So they see the changes and they will come in and say, I feel like I've aged overnight. So it's quite dramatic in the first 5 years. So they want their faces attended to. So the symposium that I ran was actually for the medical aesthetics community, made up of doctors, nurses, and skin therapists, because we see these women. And I was tired of seeing these women have their faces tweaked and, different things done to it. But then we would send these clients on their way. And no one was talking about what else was going on with her that was far greater a concern than just having a few lines and wrinkles.
Driving things, because your skin is just the external window, so to speak.
Absolutely. And you cannot just focus on this without addressing what is driving it. Exactly right. And so this symposium was really to showcase all of the changes that happen in menopause, of which your contribution was just epic. It was amazing. So a lot of my clients who come to see me for their facial concerns will, when I do their consultations, I will find that they drink alcohol every night. Every single night they're drinking. They walk through the door, they crack open a bottle of wine, and they will have that while they're cooking dinner. And then they will sit down to more wine. And they will say to you, it helps me relax. That's why they drink. They put their feet up and it heralds the end of their workday and the start of their relaxation. The problem with that is that alcohol decimates the gut bacteria, for one. Alcohol drives inflammation. Alcohol affects bone density. That's a huge one that people are not making the connection with. Alcohol disrupts sleep. They fall asleep, but it's not REM sleep. Our body needs restorative sleep to recalibrate. Our brain needs restorative sleep. So all of these, and then they wake up in the morning and they don't feel rested.
There is a strange myth out there that alcohol helps you sleep because can make you sleepy for a short period of time, but it really disrupts the sleep pattern.
And you're waking up through the night to go to the toilet. You're not rested. So, yeah. I was just gonna say, so I love metabolic balance for these women because I just find that when they change their diet, usually I'll tell you an amazing story. This is another client of mine. There are so many anecdotes that I can pull, but this lady was referred to me and she made it very clear that she was always the person who hosted Christmas. And she had a big group coming, and this was someone who drank alcohol every night with her husband. Her husband always poured his scotch and poured her a glass of wine, and they would carry on until bedtime. And she said, "Look, I want to do this, but Christmas is not a good time because I entertain, but after Christmas I'll come back." So I said to her, "Let's get your bloods done now so that you're ready to go when you come back." And I do that deliberately because I want them to see what their liver function enzymes are doing. And sure enough, her bloods came back very elevated liver enzymes, which really panicked her. She decided on the spot that she was going to do it there and then. And she recruited her girlfriend and they did it together. And she said for the first time at Christmas, she didn't join in all the frivolities and the carry on, but just watching her friends in that sober state made her feel a sense of sadness that her friends were in a place that she had been, struggling with their health, but not prepared to make any changes. And then she discovered non alcoholic wine. And that's what she then started to drink when she did. But for a long time, even before, when she was on metabolic balance, there was no wine, there was nothing. She just went cold turkey, her and her girlfriend did. But her health, she got her health restored, right? So it, that is what I'm wanting to really help people discover. The fact that how they feel is not what is destined for the rest of their lives. They can change that. But it's just educating them and having the tools.
And I think I mean, so for anybody listening here who might be thinking, oh my goodness, I have to give up all wine, because it's not about giving up wine completely at all. I've already shared that we have the odd glass. I think what it is, it's about recognizing that what we do as a habit, what we do as what we've kind of fallen into as a pattern of behavior, it is called having a consequence. It's having a consequence on how you feel. And there is nothing that the human body does not detect and act upon. So it is about that recognition. What is more painful in so many ways? How you're feeling on a day to day basis, or the idea of changing what you're eating, how you eat, when and where you eat, and whether you pour yourself, one glass of wine or three, kind of thing. And you only do that on the occasional night as opposed to every night. It's it's so worth it when you actually really think about how do you feel on a daily basis. And that's sometimes that I think a lot of people don't put the connection together, do they? They don't connect their day-to-day choices, and actually the fact that that is having a direct consequences on their health and the pattern of their symptoms.
So I don't think that people tend to look into the future or look beyond the now. And the now is very much it's habit based. This is what I do on a daily basis. This is how it is. I'm constantly bloated, but I've always been bloated. Or I'm an insomniac. I'm a chronic insomniac, but it's always been that way. And I don't want to give up alcohol because I enjoy it. And all we're trying to do is to show you what's possible and give you a plan, a meal plan that has been generated based on your biochemistry. Your inflammatory markers are elevated. Your health is not optimized. And if you continue down that road, while you may have gotten away with it for so long, it will catch up with you eventually. And there's a fear also that going on this plan means boring. It means food furthest from the truth, Cherry. My clients say, Chiza, I'm going to eat this way forever. I know that in maintenance, we're able to introduce other foods, but I love it. The fact that you can have a treat meal, and indulge. They don't. They don't because they feel their best eating from their plan. Oh my gosh, I love what I eat. And it's not restricted at all. But what it is it's real food. It's people talk about going gluten free. And I always say to my clients, gluten free is eating fruit, vegetables, protein. What nature Whole foods, as nature intended. That's gluten free. But buying packaged food that has a gluten free label, you know it's processed, high in sugar, very, very low in fiber. It is empty food. So I'm very passionate about this because I've seen it transform lives. I just have to tell you about a lady with ankylosing spondylitis.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I had an early client with, yeah, ankylosing spondylitis too. Yeah, carry on.
She was on heavy duty cocktail of drugs, in pain, never free from pain. And it was a friend, her cousin, who's my dear friend, who says, Chiza, I'm begging you, can you please help my cousin? She's tried everything and we're scared she's going to die. And she came to see me, and you could see how desperate she was, but she trusted me. And to this day, she's in remission completely. Completely. And her doctor was shocked. But she sent a message. I put up a post on metabolic balance, and this was about 4 years ago that she came to see me. And she says, you saved my life. And I still eat the same way. And I'm still in remission.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to just clarify we are not talking about cures here, any silly miracle cure stuff. This is not what it's about. And, and really how the body responds to the food, we always have to wait and see. But I think it is this recognition the human body is only fueled by what we eat and drink every day. That's the only thing that actually can restore any kind of balance or rejuvenate cells or calm down the inflammatory approach really in a very systematic way. And then we see where the body can go. So it's not about curing or any kind of this thing, but this is often where I say the food, when you really do bring in some great sustenance, we see what happens for somebody. And that's why it's so much fun, isn't it? It's so much fun to really walk alongside these gorgeous people, women in menopause, and just see the difference that happens for them.
Because there's inflammation present. That's with all of them, with all of us who are menopausal. As estrogen declines, inflammation is present. Inflammation drives disease. So if we can help to reduce that inflammation burden just by getting people to eat right, that's the starting point. But it also means that there'll be a cascade of other benefits to what they see occurring, or to these challenges that they have. And the benefits include improved sleep, energy levels for days, just feeling better in themselves, seeing metabolic syndrome start to reverse, type 2 diabetes. It's so rewarding. And so, like you said, we're not looking at this as a cure. All we're trying to do is to optimize your health by getting you eating right and eating for your biochemistry. Your blood tests tell a story. And so if you keep pushing the envelope, with the inflammation present, chronic inflammation leads to disease.
Yeah, absolutely. So can we talk about, because you're actually also embarking on a PhD. So can you share what your PhD is about?
Yeah, I wanted to do a PhD. Well, as you know, Cherry, the research in the symptoms that are associated with postmenopause, the research is not there. It's almost like women complete their reproductive years and then they disappear, right? They lose relevance. And yet we still have another at least 40 years to go. And we also know that the disease burden increases as women get older, where their health is not optimized. And so, because I see a lot of women who are menopausal that I help through metabolic balance, and I see the success of it, I wanted to add or contribute to the research. For me, it was important that it wasn't just about diet, because diets work for some people, but what we know is that they are very temporary. When someone tells me they're embarking on a diet, I always say, good on you. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'll see you in 10 months' time. because I know that usually they've fallen off the wagon.
Or it's like, well, what are you doing after that then? It's like,
Okay, what happens then?
what's that? Well, what's next after the diet? Yeah,
Yeah, which inevitably is another diet. It's invariably another diet, trying something else. So people tend to
of guilt or some kind of whatever. And it's like, oh,
the cycle, we know the cycle, exactly, and on it goes. And I have never seen anything like metabolic balance. Like you say, I've been doing it for 7 years. I am a metabolic balance practitioner, but I'm also someone who uses it in my everyday life. So I breathe it, and it's just a way of life. It is a lifestyle. I'm not having to think of counting calories. You don't count calories. You just eat. You eat to the point of satiety, right? But you find that you don't even eat a lot because the food is so nutrient dense and nourishing. So you enjoy it. This morning I had sheep yogurt with mango. That was my breakfast, and it's one of my favorite breakfasts. But I wanted to do this at research level because I feel that the missing component to managing weight is that there has to be a coaching element. You cannot do it alone. There has got to be mindset change. You have to have someone who is going to be beside you to help you when you feel yourself giving into temptation. And when you have something that is so well um, produced as metabolic balance is, where you have rules, guidelines that you follow, and you have your coach who is there to assist you on your journey, that will hold you to account, that was really important. So I recognize that having personalized nutrition that is designed specifically for your unique biochemistry, and then having the coaching element, but then also not excluding exercise, because exercise is such an important part of it as well. For metabolic health, you've got to have exercise. You have to have the fuel, absolutely. And then you have, so that was really when I thought, "Oh my gosh, I've got the perfect recipe." So I ran it by my two supervisors, and they loved the idea. Now they are exercise physiologists, and they loved the unique concept of bringing personalized nutrition and coaching on board. So that's what we're doing, and I'm going to be spending the first year making sure that my research question is sound. I'm then going to have the all of the research collated, and in November I stand in front of a panel and I produce what I want to research, and they say yes or no. So hopefully by November I become a PhD candidate. Up until now, I'm a PhD student about to embark on this fascinating journey.
yeah. And it's such important research to actually have in the realm of, and have people recognize that personalized nutrition makes a difference. It's yeah, it really does.
Personalized nutrition, coaching, and exercise on the cardiometabolic health of menopausal women, because we know that the metabolic function changes immensely in menopause. Women are not exercising. A lot of them are not exercising. And then, of course, we then have the fact that they don't know what to eat, right? The number one killer of many menopausal women is heart disease, right? That is such an important thing to consider. And diet does affect your cholesterol levels. We know also that with estrogen's decline, cholesterol levels rise. So we've just got to try and get women metabolically healthy. And yet society judges people who are overweight as being people who have poor self-control, who overeat, etc. It is much more complex than that. What we have also found with all of these GLP-1 agonists, all of these drugs that you mentioned, Cherry, is that they are changing people's lives. They are, right? People are losing weight at incredible amounts, and their health, um, whatever the symptoms are, their health is returning, being restored. Type 2 diabetes reversing, cardiovascular disease or cardiovascular health improving. So there have been lots of benefits outside of the one reason why they were brought on, which was to try and help diabetics, type 2 diabetic. In my industry, which is a very, very much a vanity driven industry, women, whether they're overweight or not, want to jump on the bandwagon because you can never be skinny enough. That's the message that society has given to us. What I know is that, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have access to it who don't need it. Yep. I think that while there may be a place for these GLP-1 agonists, you cannot discount the importance of optimized nutrition to go alongside that, because these drugs actually really suppress feelings of hunger. Your hunger signals are suppressed. They also slow down gastric emptying. Now, this this isn't a healthy state to be in, where you are not eating, not because your body doesn't need the fuel, but because you lack the appetite, right? Women in this life stage need protein for muscle health. Protein is metabolic, well, muscle is metabolically active tissue. We talk about women needing to improve their muscle mass to improve their health, to keep them strong. Good muscle mass means strong bones. And so, in that picture, while women are fighting to keep their waistline and be slim, they're losing, I think, sight of the fact that in menopause, as things change, your muscle mass is being depleted. You're not just losing fat, you're losing muscle mass, which is then going to have consequences down the track. So while I'm not in any way saying that there's not a place for Ozempic and for these other ones, I'm saying get the diet right, get the nutrition right, fuel your body rather than when you do eat, picking foods that are highly processed, that are not serving you. So I feel that there's a place for both. If you have been prescribed it, there's a place for both.
I couldn't agree more that there is 100% a place for modern medicine and the advances of modern medicine to really help things. The way I look at these GLP-1 agonists, that they can really assist with that food noise and bringing a calmness to the day for many people who really struggle. And it can be an incredible assistance, support. The real dangers are when it is only seen that, yeah, I don't need to eat, I won't eat, and then you are losing all of your muscle, like you said, because muscle is the only thing that protects us as we age. If the muscle disappears, then suddenly we are so susceptible to all sorts of problems as we get older.
So unfortunately, when these drugs are given, there's usually not always that nutritional piece that is also advice that's given. So they think it's just about losing the weight and that's it. Then they come off the drug and their food habits haven't changed.
Yeah, this is where what I would love to see is that the drugs are used because yes, they can be significantly beneficial and helpful to help somebody calm that food noise down, but they are used when they bring in alongside an MB plan, like real nutrition education. You then get the real balance back in place with the food and the lifestyle changes. So then when you could cease taking the drugs, because I mean, we don't even know what the consequences are of real long-term use of these drugs. They can be significant. Like I said, I do believe there's a place for them. But once you take them away, we now have to have something else in place. Otherwise, the awful rebound is going to happen. And that's sadly what we've also seen and what many people have so tragically experienced, that it's all taken away from them. They rebound and gain the weight again, and they are helpless to stop it.
And in menopause, we are at risk of fracture. And we know that if they fall, because balance is now off, they can break a hip. No, there's no core muscle strength. They break a hip and they can die. So it's serious. It's serious. And I just feel that the education needs to be around this complementary sort of almost a bit like when you see a doctor who's going to put you on Ozempic, there needs to be a consultation around nutrition and also exercise. It should be those three together so that you know exactly. what to do. Yeah. Sustain it. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I could carry on talking to you all morning, Chiza.
As I could do. It's been great.
It's been so lovely. If you were to just finish off, if I just ask you now that, if somebody is listening to this who, a menopausal woman has listened to us chat here and she's sitting there thinking, I don't know, I'm not sure if I should reach out to a metabolic balance practitioner. What would you say?
I'd say do it anyway. You're not sure? Do it, because if you don't reach out to someone who can help you, and we know this is going to change your life, you're going to continue to struggle along, trying this without success and trying that. It is worth it. It'll change your life because it's not a gimmick. We're using your biochemistry to optimize your health. And so you've got two options. You can continue to struggle unsuccessfully, or you can allow a proven program to really transform your life, really.
That is purely eating a great breakfast, a great lunch, and a great dinner for you. Yeah, that's actually tailored to you, isn't it? That's what it is.
Tailored to you with no desire to snack in between, or your blood sugar levels remain stable. It's just it's life changing. It's transforming.
It's very hard sometimes because I often think these, my chats, they end up sounding like adverts, which you could totally argue they're like an advert, but it is purely food.
You're going to eat anyway. They're going to eat anyway.
It's learning to eat. It's an education with a professional to just know what you put in your supermarket trolley every week. That really will give you.
Yeah. And it's amazing how when you become more aware, you realize that processed food that kills the bacteria can't be good for you. When the bacteria in your gut drives everything, it drives your mental health, it drives your mood. If it's decimating your good bacteria, then it is of no benefit. And it's not that you can't have the odd treat, but you're going to, as your good bacteria start to increase in number because you're fueling them, your cravings change. You stop craving those foods. That's the revelation, and you'll start to fuel yourself with healthy foods. And I want this for everybody. Hence why I'm doing it at PhD level.
And it's wonderful to support you as well.
Oh, and I'm grateful, Cherry. I am. Thank you.
So it's as I said, absolute pleasure to talk to you, Chiza. But we do probably need to wrap everything up now, just for now. And if anybody would like to hear more from Chiza, what's a website that people can check you out on?
ChizaWestcarr.com.
Easy. And we will have that in the show notes as well. And for anything to do with metabolic balance, metabolic-balance.com.au, would get you wherever you are in the world. You will find your local website. And a big thank you again. And do join me again next time.
Thanks for having me, Cherry. I enjoyed it.